think after that last scene, I just said, wow, and I cried. This series really touches on very important topics, and that is one of the major ways to pass messages across. Everybody's on Netflix, everybody's on Amazon, everybody's like watching something almost every other day. What's the best way to teach a lesson or to pass a message across if not through film? And of course, in some cases, music. So this actually did an excellent job in doing that. So the creator of the show, Stephen Graham, said that he was inspired by the unfortunate events of two girls being stabbed to death by teenage boys, and also wanting to open up conversation between parents and children. There are parents who think that this cannot be me, but that's the point of the show. It's not about pointing out good or bad or right or wrong parenting. It's basically saying that this could happen to anybody, because even in the show you could tell that this family is a normal, happy, middle-class family that you don't expect anything crazy like that to happen to. However, it did. They steered clear of the stereotypical approach to like giving characters background. A lot of times in film, especially when it comes to like, the perpetrators of crime or the villains or the antagonists or anything like that, usually the writers tend to create characters tied to them that justify the reason why they are the way that they are. They try to make it seem like, oh, okay, so this character is this way because his father was an alcoholic, or he was abusive, or he was absent, or the mother was a religious fanatic, just anything to move the plot forward. The focus of this is not who's to blame, but rather how can we prevent this, and why is this even happening in the first place? So technically what he wanted to do was to stir up that room for conversation, incite that in society and at home too, between parents and children, which I believe it has done over the past couple of weeks. So you could even tell that the purpose was not defeated. Other things I tried to touch on was cyberbullying, toxic masculinity, misogyny, and the effects of social media on young adults and teenagers, especially now that the internet and a whole lot of this like content is readily accessible. Just the overconsumption of some of this really toxic and negative content, ideologies and conversations, and the impact that can have on these young children, and seeing how they can act out towards each other. If you think you can't relate, think again. We literally had cases of students dying as a result of bullying not too long ago. This was about last year. So it's really not far-fetched, because it just might be your child. It really could be. Now let's go into more of the filmmaking part of it. But I'm going to start with the actors' performances. It was refreshing to watch. Sometimes you'll be watching some films and you'll be like, don't be so they talk. Oh. This is not how we talk. This doesn't feel like a real conversation. The tone, the words or the terms that are used, the body language, the facial expression, you're just like, it's so obvious that you're acting. It's so obvious that, this isn't real. So when you see performances like that feels like they literally internalized the character and embodied the role to the point where it feels like we're watching the actual lives of people. That is so impressive. It really is, because you don't know how important it is to carry your audience along in such a way that your performance doesn't feel like a performance. Watching Owen, 2 episodes with him actually, the first episode and the third episode, I was like, wow, this boy, are you sure he's not? It felt so real. Like the first episode, I felt so sorry for him. I was like, what do you mean you're charging this boy for murder? Like, look at him, like, only to find out that he actually did it. So you mean he was acting all along, all these tears and crying and all of these things, he was just lying about not stabbing that girl. Dad, I did nothing wrong. What? Like, the way the father reacted was literally how I was, oh my God, I was so shocked. I was like, There's no freaking way. What? That was quite a reveal. Then the scene with the psychologist, the fact that, not everything there was even scripted. Like, I think even at the end, that particular take that they used was the only one where he banged on all 3 windows. Because, he kept banging on the windows as he left and he was like yelling. She said that it was the first time that he was actually doing that. It added to her performance after when she broke down. She came in a lot brighter, even made an offer with the meal that she made. And seeing her at the end not even being able to touch that meal, not even being able to stand what she had just experienced. Having your actors feed each other with their performance as naturally as possible. A lot of times, especially here in Nollywood, one take actor, one take. We always jest about it. But to be honest, are you really a one take actor if you cannot maintain that character for an hour plus straight without any cuts? And not just maintain, you have to transition, because while watching you go from being this person to becoming this person at the end of the scene without any cuts. Do you see how that works? Say for instance, episode 3, when the psychologist came in, we obviously saw that this lady wants to help this boy. She's looking for something to be okay, he's innocent. You can't blame him entirely for this. She was open, and we watched her slowly close off to the point where she just entirely gave up on him. She had now come to terms with reality that she is not going to be his savior. And you could see it in her delivery in one take. Do you know how hard it is? They literally had to keep going. They move from this room, they go into that room, they go outside, they're walking on the street, they are driving, the camera is following them throughout. They don't get to take a break. They have to maintain the energy, maintain the emotion, transition when needed, and improvise in the moment. Because when your fellow actor does or says something that isn't in the script, you can't go, oh, that wasn't in the script. No, you have to improvise. You have to, find ways to keep flowing without the audience noticing that there was a flaw. And they did it so effortlessly well. Now imagine filming your entire movie in one take. That's exactly, it's not exactly what happened, to be fair. They did have several long takes. They wanted it to be an immersive experience and a very natural one. In filmmaking, we're always how do we make the audience forget that there is a camera in the room? Which is why we came up with all these other things like stabilizers. You have your gimbals, you have your dollies, you have your track, you have your Steadicam, you have all these things in order to make your camera movements more fluid and to give your audience a more immersive experience when it comes to watching or viewing it, so it doesn't feel like there's a camera in the room. This one just takes it to a whole other level, because now you're having to navigate the technicalities of the logistics of the different sets that you're shooting on, going through windows, running on the street, or going from here to the other end of the town, all in one take, not cutting between any of that. So it was actually intense for them to do. So apparently they had 3 weeks per episode to work on. So what they did the first week, let's say episode 1, first week of episode 1, the director works with the actors. So they had rehearsal for a week. The first week was just scripting, rehearsal with the actors and the director and all of that, so they could get their lines and their movements and their blockings properly. So it just became more natural for them. Then the second week for the episode was the week for technical rehearsal. So in this case, what happens is they bring in all the technical crew members. So you have the DP, you have all the grip, the light, all of that, Steadicam and all, to come in. And what they do is they rehearse again with the actors, but this time they are rehearsing with the camera. So the camera is moving with them. They are figuring out how they want to achieve these fluid shots that they have imagined. So that's them trying to figure out what works and what doesn't work. Okay, should we walk through this hallway? No, we have this that's going to block our path. It's going to make it harder for us to transition to this. Okay, so which other hallway can we use? They go to a different hallway. How can we achieve jumping out the window with this guy? Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to attach the camera to the drone. Let's try it out. Let's see if it works. If it doesn't work, we have to figure out another way to block that scene or that movement. So what they used in achieving all of that were different types of equipment. They used dollies, they used vehicles that would have mounts on them. They used a drone at some point to attach without cutting. Then week 3 is where the actual shoot happens. Each day for week 3, they have 2 takes. They have a take in the morning and they have another take in the afternoon for the day without any cuts. Then the following day, they do the same thing that they did the day before. Technically, what they are doing is they are perfecting the execution of that scene, honing their rules, both technically and artistically, to give you the perfect scene. It looked so simple, but it was complex, but delivered in such an effortless way. So, yeah, it takes a whole lot of work to actually achieve something like that. Another thing people also probably didn't really pay attention to is the fact that every location had to be perfect. Every part of that set. Usually what we do is after you shoot in one part of the set, you break it and then you go and shoot in another part. You set up that part, right? But in this case, there was nothing like that. Everything, all the lighting had to be done everywhere. Each room has to be lit to fit the shots that you want to take. And you can't just dismantle and then, no. All the props and sets had to be ready because there was no time to move from here and then start trying to avoid. No, everywhere needs to be in place throughout that take. I actually cannot lie. It was impressive to see that level of precision. You know, even when you're watching the videos of how they would clip the camera to something or put it on some or mount it here or move it to something else, like very fluid. And when you're watching it, you can't tell that this is what is happening. I think the last episode even was probably my favorite because they are showing you this family that ordinarily you would be like they are troubled, dysfunctional or anything like that. But they're like, no, they are a normal, happy family. The only problem now is this whole thing that has happened and the impact that has had on them. Not only did they have to deal with the fact that their son was in a correctional facility, but they also now had to deal with the stigma to the point where the mother was even like, should we just move? And obviously the father not wanting to give in to that. It wasn't black or white. It wasn't my son is being detained so my entire world has to fall apart. But it also wasn't we're still jolly and you know nothing is wrong. No, it's like the in between, the perfect balance of struggling with this but still trying to make this work as hard as it is. Oh my god, that phone call from the prison, it was just the final straw, understandably so. The fact that they were able to take us through that journey like a wave leading up to that final scene, you could feel it all. It was a masterpiece, just beautiful. The essence was not lost, is the point. And the effort put into it ought to be appreciated and acknowledged. There's no such thing as utmost perfection, but I have to say I would definitely give this show a 9/10. Tell me if you've seen the series Adolescence. Let me know what you think. If you haven't, go see it and come back to this video and let me know what you think. Thank you guys for watching. It's been a pleasure bringing this to you and I really hope that you enjoy it. Please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe because that's what's going to help me obviously push my videos out there for more people to see and also help me create more for you and your viewing pleasure. So thank you guys.